So number one, you have the Big Bang. Before space, time, and matter came into existence, which is our universe, there was no thing. There was nothing. And then space, time, and matter exploded into existence, including the quantum vacuum. That means that whatever created the universe was spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, which is the exact description of God in the Bible, the great I Am. Number two, you have physics. Everything about our existence is so incredibly fine-tuned that if you were to lay a tape measure from one side of the universe to the other, which is a distance so far that you literally cannot imagine it, that if you move the strength of gravity literally 1 inch to the right or left, we would all cease to exist, all life would cease to exist. This is just one out of 100 things that are incredibly, insanely fine-tuned for our existence. Number three, of entropy. People will resort to blaming the multiverse for our creation, but that would still fall prey to entropy as well, which is why things cannot be eternal, because all things are degrading. All things are sort of rusting away. It's hard to keep things together than to let them fall. Like holding water in your hands or rust on a car, all things want to go from structure to chaos. So why would evolution work then if everything else in the universe goes from complex systems to less complex systems by nature? But magically evolution flies in the face of this. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Next, you have amino acids. The chances of amino acids forming by chance, even on thousands of worlds and thousands of galaxies, is so astronomically low that it's actually the best scientific example of impossibility that we have. Not to mention, if evolution is true, it does not mean that God is not responsible for it as well, but if he is, why use such a broken and inefficient system that flies in the face of science? Next, you have DNA and RNA and epigenetic information. Let's say that somehow 200 amino acids formed by chance, which is literally impossible, but let's say they did that all at the same time, in the same space, on the same planet, in the same galaxy. Now you need DNA, a genetic code so complex that you can take all the world's information in a single strand and store it, and still have room for much, much more. Where did this come from? We know only minds create information. Abstract processes only create chaotic things, not detailed information. DNA proves God, and you also have to have that the instant the amino acids take place all together at once, you need to have things like sugars and other things that form the cell itself, including things like epigenetic information, which is inside of the cell that resists DNA changes. And all of it has to contain all forms of life because we have no example of DNA adding any new information that's beneficial other than using old information. So it would have to contain all of the information that is for life. All of these things need to come together in one instance, survive and replicate. How could that ever rationally take place on its own? It just doesn't make any sense, and it seems like atheism takes more faith than it does to believe in God at this point. Number six, you have morality. Moral laws are in our nature. The Bible declares that God wrote his law upon our hearts, his moral law. Well, moral laws seem to indicate a moral lawgiver, don't they? Without a moral lawgiver like God, all things are technically permissible. You can say that society determines what morals are good or bad, but which society? Are we talking about the Sharia law society where killing people like ISIS does and enslaving them as sex slaves is okay? Or what about the entire country of Germany when the Nazis reigned, or Caesar and Rome and all the horrible things that have happened in the past? Which culture are we talking about that has the right to determine our moral laws? The point is you can certainly have morals, but they cannot be objective morals, such as killing a baby for fun is wrong. That's objectively wrong no matter what culture you're in, yet you cannot justify it with just pointing to, well, we all agreed. It's like, yeah, but it's not objective then. It's just subjective and it's conjecture. And so the fact that we have an innate sense in us that says, no, killing babies for fun is wrong, is proof that God wrote the moral law upon our heart and he is the one who decides what is wrong and what is right. Otherwise, it's just opinion. Now you have logic. Everything I just talked about relied on reason and logic. Things that do not exist if there is no God, including truth. Truth, logic, and reason are just chemical interactions in your brain, and they have no ultimate value, including the idea of ultimate value. It doesn't exist either. The sun is not truly in the sky if evolution is true, if we are just stardust, but the sun is in the sky, and that points to metaphysical truths like logic. Even the quantum realm bows to logic, and I'll show you why. Things pop in and out of the vacuum, but they do so regularly. They do so with structure, which means even on the smallest level, the universe still has structure and logic. Math and equations are only possible in a universe created from an ultimate mind. Now, there are more proofs, but here's the big question. Where do you want to spend eternity? If I'm right about God and Christ, which I feel there's not only enough evidence to theism, but compared to every other religion, logically, morally, and honestly, there is nothing that compares to Christianity. If it's true and you die in your sins, you have to pay for them in hell for eternity. If I'm wrong and I believed in a fake spaghetti monster called God and I die, well, nothing happens. But if I'm right and you're wrong, it's wonderful news for me because I got to spend the rest of eternity with God, but horrible news for you and also for me hearing about it because I don't want that for you. I don't want you to go to hell. So if you really do want to believe in God, look to the evidence and stop running from Him. He loved you enough to die and take your place so you don't have to go to hell. It's as simple as that. We have a Discord dedicated to this in providing evidence, prayer, and support. Join it, ask questions. We are here for you, and thank you for listening. See you in the next one.